Platonic Podcast.
With Kian Bina as Socrates, Gedd Constable as Jeremy Bentham, and Jack D'Entremont as Immanuel Kant.
Salutations, O Athenians. My name is Socrates, and it is my honor to be accompanied by two accomplished philosophers such as myself.
Thank you, Socrates. My name is Jeremy Bentham.
And I am Immanuel Kant. Together we will be discussing the issue of profanity at school, its consequences, and whether they are just or unjust.
In order to efficiently and thoroughly discuss this issue, we will present a couple of hypothetical situations in order to decide the morality of this controversial topic.
Swearing in school is considered a Level 2 violation. The following is a description of a Level 2 violation and the possible consequences that can follow. Level 2 violations are chronic Level 1 behaviors and/or behavior of a serious nature which tends to disrupt the school's learning environment. In this case, abusive or vulgar language.
The school may respond with any two of the following consequences: conference with student, parent contact, morning A or B detentions, confiscation, denial of privileges and open campus, loss of parking permit, out-of-school suspension, referral for counseling, HS Hope referral, and suspension from extracurricular activities. As you can see, this issue is taken very seriously across the school district.
Agreed. This now leads us to the arrival of our first hypothetical. Suppose you were walking toward your teacher to hand in an assignment, but you stub your toe on their desk. Immediately you mutter under your breath, "Shit." Afterwards, you realize that your teacher has heard, and he or she looks at you angrily, telling you that you will be reported. By simply uttering "shit" while in pain, individuals put themselves in a situation where they get in tremendous trouble, such as detention or another administrative action. The question we arrive to is whether or not one should be allowed to curse in this situation.
I'll start us off. In this situation, I see absolutely no problem at all in muttering a curse word. If by saying the word you are helping to deal with your pain, then there should be no reason to get a detention or other punishment at all. As long as saying this word minimizes your pain and helps you cope, which many people do find useful, then it would not be just to hand out punishments for such an act. However, if you say a curse word out of anger and spite, which multiple people do have a problem with, then there is most definitely a reason to give punishment, whatever it is determined to be.
Jeremy, profanity is blasphemous. The school building never intended to include such senseless actions. It is simply a place of learning. The categorical imperative, my friends, is a simple call to duty we are forced to answer as humans. This imperative universally disallows certain behaviors of this type, ones who all but ruin the integrity of our kind. The categorical imperative exists to declare under no circumstance should swear words escape the lips of ourselves, our children, or our neighbors. Anyone who breaks this law shall face equal punishment, with no exceptions.
This categorical imperative of yours, Mr. Kant, violates the rights people have as individuals. I believe that a governing body, such as a school, should not have the ability to interfere with the rights of its subjects. Why should a student be punished for cursing when they are exercising their rights to freedom of speech? If humans weren't allowed to speak freely, then you, my dear friend, might have been killed or punished for simply suggesting the categorical imperative in the first place. So please, tell me why your categorical imperative is allowed to oppress the rights that allowed for it to exist in the first place.
Socrates, I'm afraid your idea of my imperative is corrupt. The imperative shall not shame acts sought to as dutiful, such as the suggestion of a brilliant philosophy. However, the categorical imperative will, without a doubt, punish those committing acts universally prohibited, such as swearing to the fullest extent to which it is due.
No, both of you have it all wrong. If a standard were to be set in stone and a protocol be created for similar types of situations, we would miss out on some very beneficial possible consequences. You should always judge a situation based on the good that would occur from each potential option taken. My point is, if a decision were to be made beforehand, we could miss out on the chance for maximum happiness and minimum pain in our society, a perfect system.
So, as you put it, each of you declare the morality of swearing in certain scenarios?
That is correct, Emmanuel.
Perhaps I see your view. Jeremy, you state you wish to ascertain the greatest joy for society, and you wish to increase efforts to minimize displeasure. In which case, you may agree to substituting these prohibited swear words with other, less hurtful vocabulary. Both our philosophies are utilized and followed. A promising concept, no?
While I see this concept you propose, Kant, I fear it still allows for too much involvement in the life of the individual by a governing body. How would substituting curse words with different words that have the same meaning solve this issue found in the hymn book?
Socrates, you worry too much. The governing body has no say in this solution whatsoever. Rather, the individuals decide the diction they choose to utilize in the absence of these obscenities. There, seems we have discovered a sound system the three of us may be happy with.
To a solution where the governing body may have no right to punish the individuals for exercising the right to speech. However, the individuals in turn cannot utilize obscenities to the point where it bothers society. This, it seems, corresponds with all three of our philosophies and should produce a wonderful result.
Glad we could produce a viable plan for that situation. Our next example takes place in the classroom. Your English teacher has assigned you a new book to read, and she decides to read it aloud as a class. It is your turn to read the next page, and as you are reading, you come across a curse word. Do you keep reading and skip over it, or say it out loud in class in front of your teacher? Let's discuss.
Well, my friends, this is a very good question. Should the individual say a word they're expected to say, even if they're uncomfortable saying it, or don't want to say it, despite it being expected? This is what you mean by this hypothetical, right?
Yes, Socrates.
Well, if that's what this hypothetical means, then I believe the individual should be allowed to choose whether or not they want to say it, even if it's an expectation. I believe this because an outside entity, such as a teacher or a school, cannot force a student to say something they don't want to is punished for not saying a word. Then the school is contradicting itself, as in its very own student handbook, it states that cursing is frowned upon and forbidden.
Very well, Socrates. For me, it all depends on the value of either option. If you were to say the word aloud, this would be considered a disruption of class under the handbook. You may make your teacher or your classmates angry and upset, or worse, depending on the word. This seems like a bad decision, but what if you were to not say it? Would you then not be expected to read or say other curse words in the rest of the work? Probably. Some teachers may feel as if you are not getting as much out of the book as needed. If this is the case, then is reading the book completely worth it? The average price of a preteen book bought in bunches by a school is around $11 per book. Would it be worth it to spend money on a class set if you were not going to benefit from it? This is the question we must ask ourselves, and then we can know if cursing would be morally correct or not. The scenario boils down to this. Does $11 outweigh the brief discomfort of your classmates and teacher? In my opinion, it does. So my answer would be that it is morally acceptable to curse in this situation.
I must agree with you, gentlemen, that the teacher cannot force the student to say or not say the swear word. If we simply act under the impulse of our superiors, we are not fulfilling our duties as autonomous beings. It is the act of acting under the law we give ourselves, a crucial system that must be in place for a happy society. Heteronymous people are mere robots without the ability to make their own decisions. I believe the answer to this hypothetical truly lies in the hands of the autonomous individual. He or she may not allow the teacher to rule over them.
Very well, I think we have all come to an agreement about this. The individuals are responsible for their own decision. Okay, let's change the situation slightly. Now, the reading you are doing in class comes from a book you brought in yourself, not from a school book. Instead of your teacher being aware of the profanity, it comes as a total surprise. Do you say the curse word or not?
Well, this new situation is quite interesting. Do you say it and risk getting in trouble, or do you not say it, which handicaps your understanding of the point you are making from the reading? I believe you have the right to say it, because individuals should be allowed to express their point of view however they want. Why should a teacher get mad at a student for completing an assignment that was given to him or her? One might say that the teacher has a right to be mad given that they don't know a curse word would be said. However, I don't agree with that statement. Why should a student be punished for a teacher taking offense to a word that might be essential to the success and completion of an assignment given?
I'm sorry, Socrates, but I'm going to have to disagree with you. In this case, there should be no reason to recite the curse word. This abusive or vulgar language could upset your teacher and others in the room, especially since the act is so sudden. Saying the word would likely not change your emotions for the better or the worse, and I see it as highly unlikely that saying this word would spread happiness. Even though it was an assignment based largely on individual choice, it would not be appropriate to include this word in your project in this situation, and cannot be what the teacher intended. In the last scenario, the word was printed for you in a book with a monetary value. Now you are working with a project that likely has no cost assigned to it in any way. Due to this, I must change my answer and say it is not morally correct to swear in this scenario.
Very well said, Jeremy. Stating the curse word here, while acting as an autonomous being, seems to be abusing the freedom your teacher granted you to do this project. I believe cursing in this situation falls under the categorical imperative and should never be done. Now, you may suggest that I am contrasting my previous statement about the autonomous' ability to choose their own language. But this scenario is inappropriate. This, I'm sure, we can all agree on based on our pure practical reason.
Very well. It seems we've agreed and disagreed on this topic, but I hope we all understand each other a little bit better. and we've cleared up this issue of cursing for our listeners.